see the game there. I was like, well, again. Oh, I guess I should work that. They'll be sitting there and look, I mean, you're the big one. I'm just gonna ask them for them, or we have pictures of ring cam there, they like go to. He just has.
Well, that's. It's okay with that.
Yeah.
She's a stream on alley. So that's it. Oh,
A little bit scared.
Yeah.
Why?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Does your volume go up anymore for us, Tyler?
So are we at? This is a pretty straightforward for us. They're just gonna add on to this, right? They've already got that. Is this the one that we came to writing down there? This was the first one. Yeah.
She's over. Thank you.
But
I just figured out that for a while, never say this. Never heard it said. I don't, shot and told.
I would be. 6 years.
It's 6 o'clock and we can begin this evening's city council meeting for city of Wabasha. Thanks for being here. We don't have a guest speaker tonight, but I'm happy to hear any public comments. If you're here regarding the short-term rental, that is a first read of that ordinance language, so we won't have public comment at that time. You can share those public comments now if you want to say anything about that. Otherwise, any other comments to council, just come to the podium if you would. If you're online, we'll give you instructions for how to do that. State your name and address to the record and share about 2 minutes for the information with council. Do I have any public comment? Thank you.
Hi there, I'm KK. I have actually questions of clarification. One, and the first is, taking a look at the city fees schedule for, I saw that we have a fee for intoxicating beverages. We have a fee for intoxicating marijuana as well. This is a question.
I don't believe so.
And do we have a reason for that? I feel we should give equal weight to all of the intoxicating.
We have the ability to tax in some form. Is that on the docket at some point?
Yeah, I haven't revisited, is my honest answer.
Yeah.
We're
No
not
problem.
there yet. Yeah, we're not
No
there
problem.
yet. It's worth going into the counties and
And this is not comment, this is another question regarding engineering fees. It's clearly I don't understand them, but regarding 61, I know it's a huge project and I'm quite thrilled about that. How do you feel the engineering fees are coming in? They're huge. Does it feel like this is something that we're expecting? It's right on par?
We're expecting it, yeah.
Okay, and do we have an end game on it with the expectation? Do we think
That's
that's
a
going to
huge
be?
project budget. We have, I mean, it's
Like $1 million.
yeah.
Okay, so $1 million engineering.
The speed track, so all the.
Yep.
Invoices are not even reviewed here, but also being reviewed by Wabasha County, by Detroit. And then he reviews them, approves them, and he sends them on to the federal government for reimbursement. So there's
The county's
tiers.
the county's actually the fiscal agent on that, so we receive the funds
county
through the
is.
town.
Okay, and then will the bond cover most of this stuff? Cause of, like 100% of it, or is it gonna
Well,
be
the
additional
project-
taxes?
Yeah, the project as we've defined it is more than just over the roads, and so we would still seek state funding for those infrastructure components that make it more than just a road. We really wanna see development of housing and commercial in this space.
Right.
It's not the earmark, the congressionally designated funding will cover our road.
Okay,
So we're very cautious about all the costs, I mean, whether they're project allowable, not project allowable.
right, no, I understand that, but it's,
But we'll continue to look for grants, we're gonna continue to look for grants to add trees to the space, and it's a very long project, so.
right, and I know grants could get more difficult in the coming year.
Some of them, yes, some of them probably no, so we'll keep you posted, yeah,
Thank you.
you bet. Any other public comment? Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mayor, Council. Mike Smith, I live at 317 10th Street East in Wabasha, and I hear about the, I don't know if the two are related, but it's a partial alley vacation, which is in my block. And basically, I've lived there for 32 years, and I'd like to know, I guess, when it gets to that number 9 on the agenda, you'll answer the question, but I'd like to know why the council is considering vacating that alleyway now. I think I can assume there's maybe a reason, I might know what it is, I don't know if that's correct, but I strongly oppose it right now without further information, because that is my only access to my property in the back. I can't really exit from the upper end on the Jefferson Avenue end of the alley, I can only exit from below. And if that property were somehow turned over to the private landowner and the property owner, and I was denied access, well, I wouldn't, cause me harm. So I'm just curious, what would happen if it were vacated, if I would still have access, could be written guarantee of access to my property, and that's basically it. I just want some assurance that there's gonna be some access to my property. Right now, that's what I need. I'd like to know when it gets to that point of the meeting, what that reason is after 32 years and maybe 132 years of the alley being, it's not a maintained alley. It's just a old grass, throughway through there, and I don't know if there's a term for it. Anyway, why it's gonna be vacated, and that's basically my point of view, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike, but
Yeah.
we're gonna pull that agenda up, or that item up in the agenda, so we have our planner, it's going on.
All right.
Any other further public comment, and if you're online, if you've never done it before, you just need to look for a microphone, a microphone in the lower left corner of the screen. If you're muted, you just unmute yourself and go ahead and state your name and share any comments you might have with council. Anybody else here? Share any comments? All right, hearing no further public comment, any changes or additions to the agenda from staff or council? Ryan noted that, in addition to the reclassification for Ashley, we want to repost that full-time position that she's no longer able to be in. So that will be part of that consent agenda. All right, I'm not gonna speak a lot. I know we have had a lot of long meetings and it's getting a little icy out there, but I just want to tell everybody, thank you for all the support during the holidays. I know lots of people work during the holidays and had to deal with ice fields and snow, and the community often thanks me for that. I hope they thank those of you who are doing the work as well, but we really appreciate you. And looking forward to a good new year with lots of big projects. Watch is gonna start to reconvene again. I'll let Caroline and Tyler talk about that. We've got new exciting to report energy with new staff. Very sorry to see Kathy Anderson go. She's gonna retire at the end of this month, but she's gonna put us in good hands with another very experienced professional, so we're looking forward to that. Other committee reports, utilities.
We met yesterday, I have some stuff to share on the alley vacation, I'll wait until that item comes up.
Yep.
Other than that, nothing to know. I guess, I can share, we looked at the utility plans for the road Market Street improvement, but it was just kind of an overview, we don't really have an opinion, so we'll address that when that comes up too.
Sounds
You
good.
want to mention the 4% increase? 4%.
Oh, sure. For the last I think 2 years now, David Drown and Associates has recommended just a 4% increase on water sewer fees. And so we just followed that recommendation. It seems like that's kind of what their recommendation is gonna be per year, just to keep up and to prepare for like a future sewer facility. And then, there's an MDH fee listed on everybody's bill. That's a state controlled fee. We have nothing to do with it, no control over it, so the state raises that basically every year as well, so. That was also voted on and approved yesterday.
Adam Porter, is Port Authority had their regular December meeting on Tuesday, the 16th. They accepted Corey Leclerc's resignation, approved a resolution for matching funds on an MPCA grant. And then Port Authority had a special meeting on Tuesday, December 23rd, to approve the hire of Chris Gassner as the new economic development specialist. We did 3 interviews and selected Chris, so he'll be starting tomorrow, I believe.
Mhm.
Yep, so excited to have him start with us.
Good. I don't see Tony or Ryan, Tony's behind you, I see him now, hi Tony.
Almost. Happy New Year, everyone.
Here to you.
Street commission met today, we talked about the street light temperature. Basically, do we want bright white, do we want orange, you know, kind of what's downtown, what's out in the neighborhood. Kind of focuses on Lawrence Boulevard because we've had some light bulbs changed with new LEDs and they're white. And the old ones are orange and people are like, what's going on? Well, I had 3 different electricians in the last 3 years, so we're trying to get a plan together to get everything to match on that, and then maybe just have something that we could go by through town, on our other light strings. We talked about the 2026 street project, kind of like Brian said, nothing really new there. We were gonna do everything last year, but was split it off into 2 projects. So this one will be, you know, roughly $1 million, and it's all new, water, sewer, curb, gutter, storm sewer, blacktop. And changes the intersection down below a little bit, makes it more safer versus having.
Market Street,
Market Street, yep, what'd I say?
you can say.
Oh, at the end of, yeah, in the Market Street, Main Street, there's a huge intersection down there, so it kind of brings it together a little bit. Hopefully less than plow too. And we talked about 9th Street, vacation, that'll come up later, and we definitely got some comments on that. And then I let the guys know I started working on the replacement truck for, what's gonna be a 20-year-old plow truck, so. Looking at probably bringing something to the street commission and city council next month or the month after. Possibly purchase the chassis ahead of time and then get the truck outfitted next year because there's emission change in 2027. So I guess the costs are gonna be $20,000-$30,000 more. Same thing we hear is about every time you buy a piece of equipment, so. Working through that, we're down a person at work, workplace injury, so he's gonna be out for a few weeks. Kind of doing the best we can with all this ice, so I apologize to the public for trying the rain, it's just unbelievable, the drains are plugged and, you know, people are getting kind of edgy, but hopefully we just work through it and I would rather have, you know, 6 inches of snow versus the rain, obviously. We did run out of salt and sand, and that was completely out. Surrounding communities were out, and then we basically went down, and got some dredge sand in. We got us by last, let's see, it'll be New Year's Day. And then supplies came in Monday morning, so we worked with MnDOT, we hauled some sand. They had some salt brought in and we got some mixed up, so we're back running. And then we did have our one truck was down for about 2 weeks, and that's the one we use for parking lots and alleys. So that's kind of nice to have that back up and running because they were getting solid ice. So other than that, park board did not meet. That's all I got.
Good. And Streets Commission has 2 vacancies, if anybody knows somebody would be good to serve on that. Right, and let's see, fire, do you have anything there, anyone that know?
I just wanted to get it up there.
All right, Aaron Gillet, Chief of Wabasha Fire Department, just like to give a somewhat of a 2025 review, we had 170 runs. Which our average is 125, normally that fluctuates a little bit with. You know, ambulance assist and things like that, but these haven't been real calls, like motorcycle crashes, are up quite a bit on 60. We had quite a few fires this year that were small but manageable type things, but yeah, it's just been a busy year for the fire department. And with the completion of our pad and our building and stuff, the team has been really putting some time in down there to make sure that, you know, shifts are covered and we covered for holiday weekends, and it's just been, yeah, we've been averaging three to four runs a week, and we're hoping that slows down here. So, that's all I got.
Thank you. And
We just had a public hearing for the short-term rental ordinance. Otherwise, that was all covered out.
Brian, anything other than what's on the agenda for ambulance?
I'll turn more of the when they're on records for presentation.
All right, and from Carolyn.
Most of it is in the annual report and just to echo what Tyler said, Chris Gassner, lives in Lake City. He has more than 20 years of experience working in various rural communities throughout southeastern Minnesota and business and economic development. And we had 3 very good interviews, and we're excited to staff. So he will be in that office behind our audience 2 days a week. Probably we'll do like Wednesday, Thursdays or something. So if you're a small business, want to meet him, want assistance, he'll be available and doing some outreach. So Kathy has been great and a wonderful person with us, I think the last 3 years, and now we're transitioning, so.
And Kathy and Chris were CETA colleagues, so I'm sure there's a
Yep.
lot of shared institutional memory from what communities have done across the region. All right, thank you for that. So the consent agenda includes the appointments and annual designations for 2026, our regular December 2nd city council minutes, approval of $15,934.58 for repairs to the main pumper and phone system, the January warrants, cigarette licenses for Quick Trip, Candy Mart, Dollar General, and VFW, gambling application from the Chamber, our Jackson County Fair, temporary liquor license from the Chamber and St. Felix, approval to submit the Minnesota Gay Equity Report, the 2026 city fee schedule, the approval of liquor license name change only for Fresh Talk, and approving resignation and reclassification for Ashley Clanford. She was unable to continue on full-time with us, but would like to work part-time. We want her very much to stay on, and we need to repost her full-time position. Anything further on the consent agenda, other than entertain a motion to approve? We have a motion from Tim, second from Jean. Any further discussion? All those in favor, oh, sorry, we got to roll vote. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Woodley.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Moyer.
Yes.
Zella.
Yes.
Duran.
Yes. All right, now we'll have the public hearing on partial alley vacation, so this is a public hearing. If anyone wants to have their comments specifically related to this item associated with this hearing. Please feel free to do so. You don't really have to repeat yourself. I think Christy was on to hear the question, was Christy doing it at the beginning? And we'll let Christy talk about this item for us and answer any questions she can. But we will first open the public hearing to anybody who has since joined. So if you'd like to make a comment as a part of a formal public hearing on this item, please feel free to do so. Anyone here in the audience want to do that? Go ahead, come on.
I'm Eric Pearson, I live with 925 Avenue, right across the street from this proposed alley vacation. In my view, the planning commission has already bent the rules enough to allow this large building with a guest cottage on the same septic line as the main house. And that was enough for me. And I think to give up half the 5 feet of the alley in return for nothing for no apparent reason, except that maybe somebody bought a boat that was bigger than they thought. That's not good enough reason to give up an asset of the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Anyone online care to make a comment during the public hearing?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can. Go ahead.
I'm at 306 9th Street East, Jake Jorgensen, the homeowner at the parcel in question. Basically, what I'm looking to do is just move that shed over to the existing property line. So it'd be like no difference than putting a fence up there. That 5 feet would give me my setback distance that's required. So the alley, in a sense, wouldn't change. It wouldn't get any narrower than it is now. It'd be no difference than if I were to put up a fence along that property line, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Anyone else online care to make public comment during the public hearing? I'll call one more time. I didn't say what time it was when the public hearing started, but it was, thank you, 6:16. Any public comment on this item? All right, we'll close the public hearing at 6:19, and now we have Christy Trisco, our city planner with us. Christy, go ahead and share anything that you think is needed beyond the staff report.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to answer questions first. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. The first gentleman stood up who said he wanted to understand access and why we're pursuing this. To answer those two questions beyond the staff report, which you guys can see, clearly it's a large alley and we're only requesting 5 feet of it. So everybody who lives within that alley would still have access to all of their homes from the alley. It's a very small request, not the entire project. So everyone would continue to have access. And why are we reviewing this? And that's because it was a submitted request. So everyone within the city has the ability to submit different applications based on things. Jacob Jorgensen, the property owner, submitted this, and so we run it through the city and try to request information that we can. As you guys can see from the staff report, the property owner is requesting a 5-foot undeveloped right-of-way vacation. You can see from the aerial that it's on the north side, adjacent to his home. I've contacted all the emergency departments, ambulance, police, and fire. Really no listed comments or concerns because the access is still open if that was needed for emergency uses. I also contacted Brian Malm there from staff report, who commented that based on state statute, there needs to be a public benefit found to allow a vacation. And so that's what I requested of both utility and street commission to really evaluate, to determine from staff's review, does this meet public interest? Is there a public benefit to having this vacated? We vacated several other properties, as you guys may be aware of, in this past year in 2025, whole properties which we're hoping to redevelop, put in single family homes, or however the city wants to use it. So the benefit of those were pretty clear, that we were trying to get property out of open easements and actually sell whole parcels. In this case, it's a little bit grayer. It's a 5-foot piece of parcel there. I have some reasons for this vacation. One is it eliminates 5 feet of undeveloped right-of-way. It's not an existing right-of-way here. The alley would then become part of the homeowner's lot, which technically reduces tax base for the city as that little piece goes to the owner. And finally, it moves a small portion, out of that area. Just to finish staff report, we did notify all the neighbors. This is the required public hearing. Staff recommends that it's a partial alley. It's all of the utilities are underground or overhead, so there's no utilities within this 5-foot vacation, but also stretched out the street and utility commission to say, hey folks, have you or do you agree that there is a public benefit? And with that, I would let either Pat or Tony chime in to determine, as both of these meetings happened yesterday or today, how those votes came out and what their discussion was on it.
You wanna do utilities first? Yeah, go ahead and
Okay, first of all, I drafted all the survey and vacation documents for the homeowner, so I'm gonna recuse myself from voting in discussion as far as a council person, but I can answer questions about the project. And then I'll fill you in on utilities. So what the utilities board discussed was, yeah, there are no existing physical utilities within this 5 feet. But on the recommendation of the city engineer, what, we have done in some other situations is, he said, you know, we could vacate the public alley, the 5 feet of the public alley. And that would allow for their setback to move, so the goal that they're asking for. But in kind, maintain just a utility easement over the 5 feet. So if Excel needs to come in and work on that gas line, or, excuse me, or if the city needs to do something, they're still allowed to utilize that 5 feet, to drive on, to dig. Something the homeowner would have to adhere to as a setback anyway, so they wouldn't have any physical improvements in it. And so that was the recommendation of utilities, when we were there. And as far as benefit to the public, the utilities commission just, kind of what Christie echoed was, we're allowing further development, it's more tax based, the more value you put into properties, the more taxable value there is. And so that's kind of the goal of the city right now with the vacation we did down on Main Street and any future things like that. So that was the extent of utilities. So they just recommended to go ahead, but maintain that utility easement in its stead.
So, street commission got to it, some questions were, you know, like first and foremost, what benefit is this gonna be to the city? And we did talk about like the development. Sounds like the development's gonna happen regardless if it's 3 feet here or 3 feet there, so we're not really making that benefit happen. If we do this vacation, and then we talked like, okay, so instead of doing these little jogs, which I think we don't wanna do. Well, why don't we just vacate the whole alley? Of course, that would, you know, encompass a lot more stuff with the neighbors, and then they'd have to start over and there'd be issues with that. I've been in some alleys and we cringe going by places when we're plowing snow because the eaves are hanging out. You know, there's a fence, everything is so tight, not to say that we maintain this alley, but we try to look down the road, okay, is this ever gonna get petitioned to be turned into an alley? Nobody knows that, so. Yeah, the street commission, they just weren't in favor, and another thing that kind of we talked about is the one down by Butts Park in that alley. It's so tight, and then also, I think that part of the zoning or planning ordinance doesn't pertain to that, the view. Like when you're pulling out the street, because this is an undeveloped alley, but if the alley ever was developed, they're so close to Franklin that your view would be really obscured coming out. So we just weren't in favor of getting anywhere near it, and that's why they voted no.
It wasn't unanimous.
Oh, well, Jeff, you're right, it was not unanimous. 3-1.
Okay, any questions for Christie?
I would say, Mayor, the other thing I would want to address here is we have an approved conditional use permit for a guest cottage on this site, but this was the first I had heard that they're actually discussing moving that guest cottage based on setbacks. So we would need a revised, approved conditional use permit that would have to meet the site visibility triangle, even if he did in fact move the building closer. It'd still have to meet those safety standards.
Right, so that was my question is if in keeping with even utility, I mean, speak to them, is a no, but in keeping with utilities concerns, does that utilization as a right of way for Excel or whoever else might be, does that even meet the spirit of their application?
It puts things in a tighter world, for sure. But I think as long as it has a utility easement over, it's a creative way to solve utility commission's concerns. I'll go there.
I think, isn't that what we did on Main Street? We Capped a utility easement over it.
Yeah, on the front part of Main Street, we vacated. I can't remember the distance, but then everything we vacated to create more buildings. You know, to meet the ordinance, we just put a utility easement over, so. Yeah, basically the same
Right.
thing.
Right. And as long as they could meet that site visibility triangle, they could still meet the safety standards of pedestrians and people getting in and out of the alley.
Yeah, that was my only concern. I know when we discussed that one property out by Quick Trip, that was an issue, and then we updated the our standards to reflect that issue, so.
Yeah.
I'm all for the easement, and if they resubmit the CUP and the site plan works, then I'm all for it,
Which they would have to.
which they would have to, it sounds like, so, yeah.
Can I add something, Mayor?
Yeah, I think Brian.
So one thing that became clear to me that I wasn't aware of in the street commission meeting, and I think Tony mentioned it, is that this alley is used, even though it's unimproved, it is used by a lot of the property owners there to access their backyards. And if you look at the lot layout, a lot of those properties don't have access along their side yards. So this is really the only way they can get to their backyard with vehicles and such. And so I think that was, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the concern that some of the members in the street commission and Tony had with this, was that just narrowing the alley was a concern by that 5 feet. And whether it's improved or not now, it is used, and there is a potential that it could be improved in the future because it is used. They haven't asked for that, but I think that was the street commission concern from those who expressed it.
I got a question. This is Dean. I have a question. What's the width of that alley down there? Does anybody know? And
16.
It's 16 feet, and so you'd have 11 feet left, which is basically a driving lane width. It'd be narrower than a typical alley if it was approved, but it is wide enough for a vehicle to pass.
Eric.
If I may recall, when still Eric Pearson, I still live at 920 Franklin Ave. The proposal, the reason for the vacation of the alley, that request, is that he's moving the footprint of the building from where it was 5 feet north. It's not creating any additional value to the tax base, so there's no public benefit.
Thank you. Mike.
Yeah. Like,
We remember.
yeah. And I understand that his plan is for a guest cottage. Is that what I'm hearing? Just a simple yes or no.
That's a definition that we have in our.
Yeah, well, I talked to that gentleman face to face, cause that's how I do things. I don't go around asking lots of people, what do you hear, what do you hear? I don't talk to a person face to face. And that gentleman looked me in the eye, I looked him square in the eye, and I said, what's it gonna be? Oh, it's just gonna be a boat storage building. That is exactly his words, and now I'm understanding he's gonna use it as guest cottage. Now that throws a whole other spin on things. I also don't believe that you need, if you can't build a building on your property, within your property, you need 5 more feet. Then make it 5 feet smaller or don't build it. Now that's common sense, and I think it's time to go use that. We can access it, even though it's probably, maybe that's true. But we also have other, we have a right to have an access property as we do not. And I don't like being, I'm not calling anybody a liar, but I'm telling you that's straight up lie to me when somebody says they're just gonna use it for boat storage. And now I'm hearing that it's guest cottage. I don't like that. So I have a little bit more of a concern too, so, thanks.
Mike.
Mayor, I should clarify. He needed a guest cottage application because he added water and sewer, i.e. a bathroom, to his storage building.
Yeah, that's a
He doesn't,
definition.
I don't know that he's going to be operating a guest cottage. That just had to be the CUP's definition to get a bathroom in his garage.
Any other comment or questions, discussion from council? I guess there is, as Eric pointed out, no additional benefit based on this vacation. I kind of have to say, I don't know that there isn't a removal of public benefit from if there is, and if it hampers the ability for this to be a conditioned alley at some point, because it's not the only property affected. But I haven't sat through the planning commission deliberations, so I don't know. There's insight I don't have there.
I would say in utilities, we understood that this would be adding tax base. Can you respond to that, Christie? Or if we have facts that this would add taxable value?
I don't. I can't really speak to that. I know that we processed the conditional use permit and the building proposed fit the setbacks as it was submitted. So, again, this is the first time that I was hearing that they were requesting this so that they could actually physically move the building closer to the alley. So I guess I would leave that in your guys' hands to determine whether you believe there's a public benefit from this submittal.
We have staff recommendation before us. Now, this was written before utilities and streets met, so that deliberation that's occurred since. But I would allow anybody to make a motion either way.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I wasn't able to get up there to look at this property, but I did go to Google Maps and viewed it that way. From what I can see on there, and I'm looking at it again, it is used because I can see tracks in the grass going up the alleyway from Franklin. My question is, does anybody in that area have any like big campers or big items that they pull in and out of that alley? Does anybody know that?
I would say even if the answer were no, that would be open to future residents or current residents. Discretion.
But most trailers are limited to 8.5 feet, so if you got 11-foot alley left, there's still access.
Right, but how about the turning radius and so forth? I don't know. I'm just asking questions here.
So again, to reiterate what Christie said, the only way this will work is if the applicant reapplies for the conditional use permit with the view requirements. And
4/5 of all members have to agree.
yes,
In a view amendment.
yeah, amendment, okay, so not a reapplication amendment to that CUP. So they would have to satisfy that issue.
One key point, he did tell me he was going to put in a bathroom. I knew that, I said that's fine and everything. But I understand it's gotta be guest permit application, but I also need to know what that opens up. That's it, I won't talk to you.
Well, that's what's on the agenda, so either stick around or check it out on YouTube. Does anyone like to make a motion? We can have further discussion.
I'll move to deny it.
We have a motion to deny, we have a second.
I'll second.
We have any further discussion on that? Any further discussion from those of you online? Hearing none, we'll call for a roll vote on the motion to deny.
Solo. Solo.
Let's see.
Did you say no?
I think his
Okay.
mouth said no.
Right.
Moyer.
Moyer, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I was still looking at the map here. What was the,
We have a
Was the-
motion to deny, a first and a second on the table, Dean, so we're taking the roll vote.
yes,
What, sorry. Dollar.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Duran.
Yes. And Brian's abstaining. Do we? Those numbers.
There's no 4/5.
Okay. So, so the motion to deny is approved, is passed. So Christy, I don't know what that means with this street and utilities input, if you guys can help that applicant figure out whether there's a different path forward.
Yes, we will reach out and work with those two committees and see what we can do with the applicant without vacating the alley.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then we were also gonna move Brian up, if that's okay with you, Brian. We're gonna look at the short-term rentals too. Oh, Christy's gonna stay on, I'm sorry, we'll do short-term rentals next, it's my thing, it's my own. So short-term rental, first read, we have in front of us. And then we're gonna allow work on this, thank you to everybody who's been involved in the drafting of the ordinance. Anything for us to know, Christy?
Oh, that's a big question, Mayor.
There's a lot there, we've discussed it prior, anything that, I can't remember, did you do further revisions since we last saw it? I don't think.
Yeah. We've been at it a long time. I can just kind of quickly go through the summary with you and then answer
Thanks.
questions if anybody has any
Sounds good.
Can you
questions.
share your screen, Christy, so we can see the sections you're reviewing?
Sure. I can give that a try. Let's see.
So it's been in front of planning commission for several months, but this is the first
Maybe that's
time
where I
it's
read it,
coming
I probably looked at the
here.
planning commission packet.
I am not seeing the ability to do that. Do I have the permission to share my screen?
Okay, I will share on my end, so just, I'm gonna
Okay.
pull up your staff report. And
Appreciate that. Yeah, we can just start with page 1.
And just so I'm clear right from the very beginning, these 1, 2, 3, and 4. Fees are city of Washington only, there's no state fees reflected here, right?
Yeah, we'll get to fees, Mayor. That's a complicated question.
Just wanna make sure I got it. sorted
Yeah.
in my brain.
Yeah. Do you have it loaded, Caroline?
I do, so I can't get it loaded for anyone online, you'll just have to go to wabasha.org and do the packet, but I have it up on the TVs for
For us,
everybody.
okay. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So page 1 here, just city council requests. So just kind of understanding what we're really trying to tackle this evening. I've attached the ordinance, the amended ordinance. We typically don't talk at first reads. We just kind of let you guys read it and then think about it at second read. But this has been a big deal, and we had a lot of comment at public hearing from the planning commission, so we wanted to be able to provide with you a summary at the first read and answer, kind of just have a good dialogue if questions arise from you guys at this point. So we still have some opportunity to maybe make changes or revisions for the second read. So that first paragraph just says that we tentatively want to get to the second read by the 5th because our moratorium ends February-ish, March-ish. So we just want to make sure that we're catching that date. So if we have changes, we still have time. The final draft edit is available. We did have a public hearing on the 9th. I mentioned here that the meeting notes wouldn't be available, but we got them done this morning. through a small miracle, so they're actually attached to the back of this. You guys can read through those again. Again, we're not asking for any decisions tonight, just a really good understanding of what we went through and what we're trying to do. The next little paragraph there, an amended code. I just wanted to make sure, just in sort of helicopter view, you guys understand that we're making amendments to two sections of the zoning ordinance. One is that we're adding some uses to the use chart and then some uses to the definitions. And then we're changing the short-term rental license section, which is actually located in the business section. Kind of moving on there just to make sure everyone's aware, but we did have that public hearing Tuesday, December 9th. We had multiple comments. We've had a lot of folks come in with questions and concerns on a lot of different things. People opposed, people happy for, and wanting more regulation than we're putting in. So I don't know if it's necessary balance, but we've definitely had comments. It's been a strong input from the community on this. So with that, I just wanted to tackle the ordinance summaries because it's only a couple pages, but it's pretty dense. So I wanted to just give you guys the overview of what we crafted. First here is just the uses. And previously we had short-term rental uses. And so we actually redefined that use and then added lodging establishment. And they're actually pretty close to the same sort of use. The only difference really is they're both short-term rentals, but short-term rentals will now be less than 30 days, but also have no more than 4 bedrooms. That's an important distinction both for most city ordinances, but also for the state. So lodging establishment will be a short-term rental less than 30 days, but they'll have more than 5. And the reason that we crafted that designation, as you can see on that next page, Carolyn, if you want to go to the next page of our staff report, is the processes want to be different. So if you have up to 4 bedrooms, we're just going to have an actual rental licensing process, just like we have in place right now. If you're more than 4 bedrooms, so 5 bedrooms or more, meaning there's probably more impact to the community if you are renting 5 bedrooms. You could have 5 cars there, you could have larger parties, bigger outdoor experiences. We've determined that would take an interim use permit to get approved. So that's the reason for the 2 definitions based on, a difference in process. Then, as I'm sure you guys all remember, the reason this all got kick-started was because we had some folks up on Skyline Drive that came to your public hearing process mid-2025 with concerns about how many short-term rentals there were in Skyline Drive. So there needed to be a discussion, a pretty serious discussion from the Planning Commission monthly on distance standards. And so we created a distance standards, and you can see the R1 and R2 dimensions here on that page. We're changing them based on our zones because R1 is largely those estate lots. These homes they're further apart from each other. Most estate lots are a little larger than our traditional downtown R2 zoning, and so those distances need to be different to kind of get to the same distance standards between individual uses, if that makes sense. So in R1, we've determined that 350 feet from each short-term rental would eliminate the problems that the original folks who knocked on our door came in with, saying that essentially every third building could have a short-term rental. In R2, to kind of get to the same dimension, we said with between 200 feet. And then we had quite a bit of discussion at the last meeting and landed on measuring this as the distance of the closest primary building corner to the closest primary building corner between each other. And Brian Woodley here can look at that and go, can we measure that? And the point is we're trying to be able to. So we came up with a distance that made sense based on, breaking up an individual street so that no one felt like it was converting to solid rental, but also it was a distance measurement that we could do either, with very high tech equipment if stuff got tight, or that we could do with aerials if we have lots of extra space. So I'll
I just
entertain
wanted to
Yeah.
interject real quick, Chrissy, just to say there is already a real life example where somebody intends to sell a property over there. And we cannot guarantee to them that they'll be able to sell it and the next person could use it as a short-term rental. Because they fall within being too close. So it is gonna have definitely some implications.
Impact.
Everyone's grandfathered in, but for anyone who wants to sell this home, it will have some immediate I guess, repercussions, so.
Right, which is sort of at the critical point of understanding kind of legal non-conforming, which I guess I can quickly explain. But properties that already exist, we have 3 or 4 really close on Skyline Drive. Those guys all get to continue to maintain their short-term rentals until they try and until and or unless something changes with their short-term rental, and ownership would be one of those. So if one of them that happens to not meet today's standards were sold and someone needed a new rental license, they wouldn't be able to get that if they didn't meet the standard. But that again was one of the main tenets or the reasons why the city asked us to review this, to try to come up with a logical spacing of these that wouldn't impact negatively the community. The next point, which I didn't really mention in this kind of quick summary, but Carolyn wanted me to mention, is that part of this ordinance is we're also requiring that there is a fairly local property manager is needed for these licenses. We're giving it a pretty broad within 60 miles of the short-term rental, so a lot of folks can still be local property managers as long as they're within 60 miles of their rentals. But there are some parcels like in the Twin Cities area that would have to have a more local manager. The reason for that request largely is it's in a lot of other ordinances, but just so that there's a semi-local presence if there's issues or landscaping or any other concerns about the short-term rentals, that there's someone local that we could call and say, please come over and review and fix. That was kind of the reasoning for that. After that, we just have kind of the license material. Some of these are pretty simple. Owners' names, rental addresses, kind of the details of what we're requiring currently are still here. We're requiring folks that fourth tick is to agree to a rental registry. And from here on, it kind of gets, these are the new ones. So after the rental registry, which is currently happening, we're now asking for insurance certification. So showing us that they have insurance on the parcel of general liability. We're asking $1 million, but we've also kind of softened that edge by saying, or the minimum amount required by the insurance provider for a rental property. So we're just asking for proof that this parcel is insured. The next tick here is a site plan. We're actually going to ask folks to show us the dwelling units, where their driveways are, to make sure they have appropriate parking stalls for these uses, 1 stall per bedroom, and if they intend to use any outdoor areas. This is something that they could simply do from like a Google Earth map. We're not going to ask them to hire a surveyor to fill this out, but rather just print us a Google Maps and kind of ballpoint pin kind of where all these elements are. So hopefully something simple to do. The next one is a floor plan. Most homes have a floor plan as they purchase their home, but if they don't, again, we're not going to ask them to go out and hire an architect. We could even just use per floor and nice rectangles, and just show us how many rented rooms they have and where they are, how many bedrooms they have in the property. That's a key point in trying to maintain how many bedrooms they're actually renting, versus if they have additional rooms in the home. Finally, last but not least, is the Minnesota Health Department or a formal process to inspect short-term rentals. In the previous short-term rental policy, we had an affidavit on the back that says you meet all the local, state, and federal guidelines, but we didn't really request documentation. So in this stage, we're saying we have to get that Minnesota Health Department license. And in doing so, we've kind of had to work with the health department. This gets really into the weeds, but the health department says anything less than 1 week is something that they can regulate. So if folks are renting for more than a week, they don't require that inspection, and there's no inspection required. And so from our ordinance, we're saying that if they fill out a rental application, it's less than a week, they need to get that state health department license. If it's more than a week, we're going to have the city's building inspector help them inspect the same things that the state's looking for, if that makes sense. And then finally, or not finally, but then we get down to fees, Mayor, which is one of your comments. And the fees that we have shown here, we've got a $50 annual fee and a $200 new rental fee. And these are the new proposed fees just to manage this ordinance for the city. If they need to get that IUP or have more than 5 bedrooms, it's going to be a $200 fee that exists. So that's what the current IUP fee is. And then there's the misdemeanor and the petty misdemeanor fees, and those are existing fees as well. But Carolyn again here wanted me to highlight again fees, and the overall cost of managing this was a really big comment from our public hearing. So state fees, just to quickly run through them, we've got about $470 for their plan review. They've got $370 for annual fees, plus $55 a year, which is for hospitality and technology. You can look that up from the state and try to find out what that includes. So it's about $1,110 for kind of an upfront new short-term rental from the state's fees. And it's a $590 annual renewal fee from the state. So these are not inconsequential fees. Plus there's some taxes.
Yeah, something that's been a little bit confusing for ourselves is this is a requirement all along, but the state really doesn't enforce this requirement unless a city has this ordinance in place, shares addresses, makes it a requirement. So that was a sticker shock for a lot of our owners here, because it's kind of like it's a complaint-based system or reporting-based system only. So I think the state really is doing everyone a disservice by not enforcing it statewide. But now, yeah, a Wabasha owner, and if you're in Red Wing, I mean, it's in other places regulating it, which now regulates it. Now is looking at 1,100 fees, which was not in place before. So that was what I felt like. I'm still getting comments on that. Just that may not be financially feasible and put some, in their words, out of business because of those fees, not so much our fees.
Did they talk about nightly rates?
Sorry.
Nightly rates are pretty high because these are very, very, very accommodating spaces. They offer different features than hotel rooms do. They've got kitchens. I mean, we've all probably stayed in more than one. So I don't think that they take too many nights to reach that $1,100. Certainly not $590. I mean, it's just several nights. It's not putting them on a business situation. Nobody likes fees and nobody likes taxes.
Yeah. Right. So I just wanted a couple of notes on this just from observation, and you can certainly read through all comments that, because we now have the draft here at the bottom, Mayor, but we can't really control the state's fees, obviously. They kind of are what they are. And the city's recommended fees are the absolute barest bone minimum that we can possibly maintain and pay for staff's time to manage this. So
do we think that's even covering these local building inspector visits?
That'd be on top of it.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yeah, they'd have to kind of get that themselves, because what we are recommending is absolutely the minimum, and we have really worked hard on the short-term rental goal ordinance here to manage the distance complaints that we got, but to really document and make sure that we're not asking for something that's crazy for oversight and staff's time too. Right. So to strike that balance to be just just what's needed, and that fee represents very minimal increase, right?
And I think
$50 a year is less than one night's rental.
we want our fees low, we recognize the public benefit, obviously, this is a whole another, line of lodging that wouldn't be there if we didn't have people interested in having. Their own properties in this market, however, I think. Too, as a guest, I've really thought a lot about this since we started talking, well, I've always thought about it, we've been talking about this for years, I thought about it when I moved here, did I wanna buy a house that maybe someday could be a short-term rental? Is that we are looking at some level of consumer protection too, and it's important, I think, for people to know that there's some level of, I think if disaster happened. They would be concerned that a city like Wabasha didn't have some level of review over this, so I think everything that's in play. Makes sense, and I think Tim pointed out, we can always revise our ordinance if we think it's.
Yeah, I mean, we had that discussion,
Yeah.
are the fees, Christie, correct me if I'm wrong, so if you go through if you rent for less than a week, you have to go through Minnesota, which is X amount of dollars, I think it's like $1,100. The
Yeah,
problem I have, which we never really discussed, is if you go through the city's building inspector, what's that fee?
Well,
It needs to be the same as Minnesota. Otherwise, everybody would just say, oh, yeah, I'm gonna rent for 8 days. I'm gonna skip the Minnesota fee, and I'll go to the city's inspector fee. And we need to make sure that's the same, right?
Which, I guess I don't care if they do choose that, and lots of markets are that way, it's hard to find a place for less than a week, and, that does take care of some of the other issues of people renting a place for just one big party. It's somebody who's staying somewhere in terms of their.
Well, I was looking at how can we try to take this off of our staff.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
So
Careful that.
there needs to be put in Minnesota, cause they need to fix the loophole
Yeah.
to a point, so.
They're also apparently, I think my plan was whatever our CNS charges us, like we do for everything else, we would pass that on, but we don't know that cost. But with the claiming that they're renting weekly, then we're expecting that they provide us rental registries showing it's weekly. They're advertising it on Airbnb and Virgo as weekly, not that it's a workaround on but the state's $1,100 in their inspection, so.
Yeah, it's it's a huge point of discussion, and I just wanted to bring that up front for you guys. We can continue, and you can ask questions. We can continue to try to find answers for you, but another couple points on fees. I guess I would just say finally, I didn't encounter a single other municipality that I researched that regulates short-term rentals that didn't require either city inspection or state oversight. So the state fees are just out there. Final note, we had some conversation about, well, now we're asking for duplicate licenses. So the state has to license, the city has to license. And my point to that is we have really worked to make sure that there's no duplication. Whatever would be submitted for the state would be very adequate for what the city needs. So they could literally just provide us the duplicate information. We wouldn't be asking residents to provide us something crazy that the state doesn't. So
it's a lot of work, and unless anybody has any questions, we can always follow up directly between now and then. So the second read will be the last meeting on this before the moratorium ends, is that right?
correct.
I guess the other thing that Chrissy didn't review is this parking standard that got some feedback as well, because if you're downtown, you can't do the parking, and she said she would count it if you're downtown, but otherwise. In a residential area, they would have to meet the parking standards, correct? Have
Correct.
off-street parking.
Have off-street, which they would just show quickly in, like I said, that Google Maps site plan. But yeah, TDC would just be the TDC rules. Again, we tried very hard not to reinvent any wheels, and TDC allows the use to be within 1,000 feet of the front door, and we would do the same for any rentals.
Well, thanks everybody for all the work on this, and we appreciate the public's investment in this too. There's been a lot of good comments that I think have helped clarify how we make this work as best as possible.
Mayor,
Yeah,
so I got a question with this whole zoning and the 350 feet and 200 feet.
right.
So say you have a bunch which has been grandfathered in right now, and you have some that are violating. They have violations and whatnot, and they're not keeping their standards. If they go to relicense, then after are they gonna fall underneath this?
There's terms that would make them, that would allow staff to decline that renewal.
Okay.
And if they appeal that, it would come to us.
Okay.
Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing there are single team people out there that haven't gone through this process that we have in place today, which is really similar to what the process is in the future. So some of those people will have to be somewhat grandfathered in and will are out, but yeah, there are situations where they would be.
Are you thinking of somebody specific?
No, I'm sure there's some out there.
Just in general, you know, if somebody,
Like, doesn't have a local property manager, that they'd have
Yeah.
to go get one.
Yeah.
Doesn't have officer.
Or we're not aware of it yet,
Find it. Yeah.
and they've been doing it.
you know, and I know this is fairly new yet, you know, and they should get learning curves, you know, with everybody, you know, so I mean, there's gotta be some lenience somewhere, but you know, just, I'm thinking of like habitual offenders that are more knowing that they're not following the rules.
I guess what
Yeah.
we're looking for council tonight, it sounds like one thing is research the building inspection fee, but is there anything that you'd like us to research or present for the next meeting, so we're not reviewing anything? Okay.
No, not until something novel comes up, from a public comment that hasn't been, I'm hearing certainly lots of good feedback. But it's a kind of a chorus of themes that I think it seems like this ordinance captures the concerns that have been voiced. Yes, please, Brian.
Just one thing to note on the fees, this is something we wanna try and keep out of ordinance is money.
Yep.
Or fees, we wanna make sure we're gonna put them in the fee schedule, so if that means that we need to go and update the fee schedule. The other idea behind the CMS fee is it would probably be part of the application. They would have to reach out. They would have to go to CMS and get the building inspection fee, they would incur the cost, we wouldn't be responsible for any of that, it would be all part of the application that they would supply to us.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that note, Wendy. Again, a lot of what we're trying to do, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the existing short-term rental, but we have a whole backside of the short-term rental license which folks sign. And it's an affidavit that said, I insure and I approve and I agree and I have done, and on and on and on. And what we found out is less than 7 of the 50 current short-term rentals actually complied with that. So we had a pretty low group of folks that actually complied with it. At this point, we're hoping to just get the submitted paperwork and quickly prove that they meet the standards, keep it in a file, process it as quickly as we can, but also to let them know that we actually want proof this time.
Commercial use takes work, it just does. All right, anything further? All right, we'll look forward to seeing that in February. Thanks, Christy. Brian, we still have you. Thank you so much. Brian, we still have you on the plans and specifications for the 2025, I think that's 6, right?
Yep.
But that is still 2025.
We call
Oh,
it
yeah.
2025 project.
Because it's just 2026. I have a little trouble the first month here. Go ahead, Brian.
Sure. So this item is related to the street and utility improvement project that council authorized last July. We've broken that up into 2 phases. The first was the mill and overlay project that was constructed here this past fall and will be completed in the spring. The second phase is what we're talking about tonight, which is the Market Street East reconstruction project between Pierce Avenue and Main Street East. What we're requesting tonight to move forward with the project is approval of the plans and specifications for the project, which we've completed, and then authorizing advertisement for bids. Would like to schedule a bid date for February 11th, receive those bids, and then come to council at your March 3rd meeting with a recommendation for award of a contract. Construction could begin as early as May, and then we would set the substantial completion date for the project at the end of August 2026. But also note that, as you know, we've had some discussions about the assessments for the project for both phases, and there are some issues that we know we need to have further discussion on and make some decisions on prior to setting the assessments and holding the hearing for the assessments. Tentatively, we've scheduled having that assessment hearing in April. at your council meeting. So our intent would to give you some time to talk about some of these things and make decisions. We'd like to come back to you at your February 3rd meeting with some additional information on those assessments and to give you some options to make some decisions there. So tonight, I guess we're requesting that you pass the resolution that was included that would approve the plans and specs and authorize advertisement for bids. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions for Brian?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion from Tim, second from Brian. Any further discussion?
I have,
Go ahead, Dean.
yeah, Brian, can you tell us what you're planning on doing on the intersection down there? Tony
Yep.
mentioned it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the plans and specs got uploaded on the council agenda.
I'll share my screen here. I've got them pulled up.
They were at some point.
And then they were yesterday for utilities, maybe, or.
Oh, what was on utilities that I
Yeah.
saw them? Okay.
So can you see my screen right now? It should be a plan sheet showing that intersection. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a plan view of that intersection. So really what we're doing, Dean, is right now that curb line for the intersection really cuts through this corner right here and it makes a really large intersection. What we're doing is we're pulling that curb line in and creating more of a standard sized intersection here rather than having that big open pavement area. It will do a couple of things. One, it'll reduce the amount of pavement that the city has to maintain and plow. A really unnecessary area, and then it'll make the intersection a little less confusing. Right now, it's not really clear where Washington Avenue stops and the intersection starts, and it's just really an intersection that's too large. So we shrunk it down quite a bit, but we did put some turning templates on here for trucks and buses just to make sure that vehicles, those larger vehicles, can still make those turns. So that's what we're proposing at the intersection.
Yeah, that looks good. Thank you.
You bet.
Think it'll decrease speed down there as well. It's kind of easy to come whipping down the hill and barely stop if you do it all the time.
Yeah.
All right, we have a first and a second, and we'll take a roll vote.
Woodland. Yes. Jensen. Yes. Fuller.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Sella.
Yes.
Graham.
Yes, thanks, Brian, thanks for hanging on with us.
Thank you, folks.
Have a good night.
Yep, thank you.
So now, let's do our election of our council president. I can't remember who's starting it, Tim. So would anyone other than Tim or Tim, if you'd like to again be president, want to step forward, it would be to stand in for me in the earlier instance that I would be gone, or if I became disabled until interim.
Tim did a pretty good job.
Sure did.
That's fine.
Tim's willing?
That's fine.
Okay, let's see if Tim is gonna be voted into that full confidence.
Oh.
Thank you.
One second.
We have a second. Roll vote.
Fuller. Yes. Jensen. Yes. Woodland. Yes. Sella.
Yes.
Meyer. You're muted. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Shoot, I thought we could really support him, but I don't trust him.
I'll make sure I'm gone when she's gone, so you can be in.
Yes, very happy, thank you, Tim. All right, and then our, let's see, department accomplishments, look forward to looking for those two separate things for the budget discussion, but it is very nice to hear everything that's been done.
And it's been a long week.
I know,
Everyone
everyone is
doesn't
out
want
there.
me to talk too long.
County is out there shared them widely, which the community really appreciates. I've seen it presented in groups large and small, and everybody is very happy to see everything that gets done.
Okay, and Brian is gonna come up on his slide because he didn't wanna repeat himself.
Sure.
Just our major public works and utility projects from this year, we completed the first part of our mill and overlay project. It was all over the city, up on Skyline Drive, west part of town, east part of town. The Public Works Department also did some patching and servicing out on the west side, and I just put those street names up on the screen. We fixed some fencing at Heritage Park. We've removed a lot of the old athletic field facilities, and just at the end of the year, the light towers came down. And it's just very important to get that area cleared out so that they can continue the environmental work to plan for the new Highway 60 realignment project. An EV charger was added in November. We did a lot. Tony's not here. He was, I like went downtown and then there are the downtown wayfinding signage. So that was a project we started several years ago, did a plan, what the signs were gonna say, what they were gonna look like. Those are up. There is one mistake that'll be fixed in spring, but it still is pointing you in the right direction. It was just we had planned it in a different spot. We try to continue some big community outreach events, so we partnered with the school district again on a Touch a Truck event. We did a citywide cleanup and invited anyone in the city to drop off their garbage. Pat and Lisa once again hosted the high school biology class for the wastewater treatment plant tours, and we were doing Pat's goals for next year. And I think we wanna do another one that's just open to the public, anyone can come on a Saturday, for Public Works Week. We did jetting this year, got and found out that there was some concrete over on River Drive that was in the system that we were able to address. There's a lot of new requirements that Pat's staying on top of for the wastewater treatment plant. Lots of snow and ice event responses, and we planted another 30 trees this year. For emergency management, a lot of it was focused on mitigation efforts and preparing for future floods. So we celebrated relocating the new skate park. We added some new bike path lighting and fixed the bike path that was flooded. We added riprap to prevent future erosion, removed Malone Park out of the flood zone and moved that to Eagles Basin. Riley won an Emergency Manager of the Year award, and we just were just under 300,000 for flood mitigation projects. This is the police call for services. They were steady. They always averaged just over 4,000 calls. I think what was notable is a lot of the charges that were out this year. They had 88 misdemeanors, 23 gross misdemeanors, and 68 felonies charged this year, so that was overall total slightly higher than last year. And this year Joe provided me a case spotlight for you all, so Dan and the whole police officer team secured a conviction for a man who possessed child pornography materials. He also started a straightforward workplace theft, and that escalated into a major criminal case across the country with multiple controlled substances. They found stolen firearms and convicted someone for receiving stolen property. And then they had some community tips. Dan set up some overnight surveillance and they were able to do multiple felony drug charges. And so I think in the summary that Joe provided was just noting kind of proactive policing, working with the community and great investigative work for the Wabasha Police Department. Darren mentioned his projects in his presentation, so I won't review that again. But it's there with the photos from the year and it'll be online for people to take a look at. Brian? Oh, and no one on the line can see this presentation, but I'm just gonna tell the people online, if you go to wabasha.org, the presentation is downloadable in an article just presented today, so I'm gonna see if I can get it. Sorry, Ryan. Okay. Now can the people online see the presentation? Now they can, okay. All right. Okay, now we're just gonna go, okay, that's the wrong presentation, that's 2024, okay. All right, can you see this one? Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
We finished December with 82 calls, which gave us 1,016 for the year. Which was 97 calls over last year and an 11% increase overall. We had a 10% increase in our 911 calls. We took 170 transfers, which is a increased acceptance rate of 43% over last year. We had 121 backup calls, which is 2 calls at the same time. And which is a 78% increase over 2024. Our billing revenue, it may go up just a little bit because I haven't got the final numbers from the billing company, but what they have on our portal. Our billing revenue went up 23% over last year. We came in slightly under budget and exceeded our revenue targets. We did 15 CPR classes with 107 people, getting instruction. We delivered a EMT course, which started out with a lot of people, but only a few, ended up staying through the rest of the class. With our second full year of ALS, we gave 186, pre-hospital ALS medications. And we had 54, ALS infusions on transfers. We're up to 22 paid on calls, 8 full and part-time staff that cover our schedule, which is 17,520 hours that needs to be covered every year. Our crew did 720 hours of training. All the townships contributed to the ambulance service. Also, is there another slide for me or? Okay. So January 15th, it's 7:30. Greenfield Township is hosting, Holly from the EMS office of EMS now. And then all the other townships and anybody from the public that wants to attend, out at their, town hall on County Road 76. So if you're interested, we'd love to have everybody out there. Also, we have a couple openings on our ambulance commission, so if somebody wants to join, we'd love to have you. Other than that, our year so far is kind of hit with a bang. We're already at 18 calls. We've already had, just in the first 6 days, we've already had 4 backup calls. So, we're moving along pretty quick to start 2026.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Just drink this, the library. I think what I found notable was 172 programs that they did and just under 5,000 people participating in those programs, and that was a 13% increase since last year. And the other good news is between media and ebook circulation, they're holding steady on circulation and visits to the library. Just under 30,000 visits to the library. And they also are starting their final mural called Feathered Horizons, and that is funded through a grant, so they received 12,500 in grant funds. Okay, now it's not moving. Is the computer frozen?
No, just click on the screen.
Okay, oh. Shoot, forgot to, okay, well. Let's see. Oh. Go back to where I was. Wabasha.org. Now I have to reshare the screen. Sorry, everybody. Now you can see how you too can find the presentation. I don't know why I just left it. Okay. Okay, why does it say 2026 budget? Okay, all right. Okay, I'm gonna go to the slide that I was on. We're almost done. Pool, just noted that they started evening aerobics this year, which was very popular. And we recaulked the pool, we're having some leaks and it keeps uploading. They did to over 273 swim lessons. Attendance and revenue were down slightly. I think it just rained and there was a ton of lightning this year. So I think it was just very weather dependent. No one wants to go to the pool if it's cold or raining or thunder and lightning. Busy year for the city and the Port Authority. I look back at the start of the year, we spent a lot of time talking about nuisances. We didn't necessarily have a huge outcome, but we did revise our code to hopefully make that easier in the future. We engaged with the community with 2 open houses. One was on the future of city buildings and one was on the Highway 60. We did one online survey. We did around 22 press releases, and our most popular post this year on Facebook and for the website was just highlighting outstanding employees. And the Facebook numbers says that we have 10,000 visitors. I don't know if it's the same person visiting, but just our Facebook numbers are very high, and I'm waiting on metrics for the website. But we had more people going to Facebook and then being directed to the website. And we have 3,700 followers right now. So it gets checked when we get news out there. We definitely get responses that way. The facade grant improvement grant distributed over $18,000 in grants to 5 businesses. I did a little article recently on that as well. We launched a Wabasha livability site, which just provides information on living, working, and playing in Wabasha, and it's linked here. Information about schools, childcare, healthcare. So for anyone that's new to the community, the Port Authority generated over $300,000 in net income. We collected just under $400,000 in permits, lodging taxes, leases, and fees. We got a large contribution from WMB Financial for the athletic field, and we funded a number of community organizations, and we selected and began work with the Highway 60 project. You guys have seen the building permit trends. I've just included that again for new listeners about what we've going on for building in the city. And then finally, just what a year, and thank you to Wabasha City Council and Wabasha City staff for all the work this year that everyone collectively puts in from all the departments. The thing I enjoy about putting it all together is just the breadth of work that we do from all the departments, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Huge thank you to staff. I like to interview people. It was a pleasure to talk to Chris. I think he knows this about Wabasha because he's very familiar with us, but to be able to say what an excellent staff we have, as well as a very functional council, as well as amazing commissions. I mean, we have really good participants, and we don't take that for granted. So thank all of you for all the good work.
And I'm gonna share this again on website and Facebook, that anyone can look at our 25 accomplishments and take a look at our budget. It's all online, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Super. All right, if there's nothing further, we would have an opportunity to adopt the resolution to accept the donations to the library, $500 from Mary Collier, $100 from Patricia and Tom Haskell, $100 from an anonymous giver, $25 in memory of Grant Emerson by Kathy and Terry Arns. To the ambulance, $1,000 as an anonymous donation. To the fire, $50 from Janice Blonsky, $200 from Barbara Neighbor, $75 from Robin Rock, $50 from Peggy Hubbard, and to the police department, $250 from Ricky and Lori Marzal, and to the Wash Athletic Complex, $5,000 from Matt and Amanda Arns. Do we have a motion?
Second.
We have a second from, we'll say it's from Dean. Gene beat you, but not by much. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll vote.
Or, yes. Lily,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Solo,
Yes.
Benson. Yes. Duran.
Yes. And we entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Brian. We'll take a roll vote.
Solo,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Lily.
Yeah.
Or, yes. Benson. Yes. Duran.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Better get out there and drive safe. Jeremy signed.